Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're dropping directly into a fascinating and honestly kind of dystopian reality of our present moment. We're looking at a time where human connection is visibly fracturing. We're continuing our journey through the book Perverting Our Reproductive Nature, focusing today on the section titled Futurism and Emerging Technologies. The whole overarching thesis of this book argues that our culture is slowly bending our reproductive and relational instincts completely away from their original design. And today, well, we are looking at what might be the absolute final frontier of that shift. What happens when intimacy is outsourced entirely to code?
So let's dive right in with a statistic from the text that is going to immediately grab your attention. Get this. According to recent data cited by the author, an estimated 1 in 4 young Japanese men report having absolutely no interest in dating real women. None. Instead, they're opting for digital companions. And look, this isn't some science fiction movie set 100 years in the future. This is happening right now. We are witnessing a massive, fundamental shift in how people actually seek companionship.
Section 1. The Illusion of Connection.
We're stepping into this strange new landscape where AI and VR provide companionship without any of the traditional chaos of human relationships. Apps like Replica, Eva AI, and Nomi are seeing literal millions of users flocking to them. And you gotta ask why? Well, because these artificial partners offer zero risk of rejection, they require no effort, and they're fully customizable. They essentially turn intimacy into a commodified product that's designed merely to flatter you. They don't get bored, they don't have bad days, and they never, ever ask you for a compromise.
The book cites philosopher and tech ethicist Dr. James Williams here, who makes a really compelling point. He notes that the liberation of human attention is a defining struggle of our time, and the author highlights a critical insight based on this. These technologies don't just reflect our current desires, they are actively reprogramming them. By capturing our attention with these totally frictionless simulations, they change exactly what we come to expect out of our daily, real-world relationships.
Section 2. A History of Separation. Now, to really grasp the gravity of this, the author argues that AI intimacy isn't just an isolated, sudden invention. It's actually the final falling domino in a really long cultural shift. If you recall from our look at earlier chapters in the book, we saw how the 1960s introduced the pill, which effectively severed sex from its natural consequence. Fast forward to the 2010s, and dating apps arrived on the scene, essentially commodifying connection into an algorithmic marketplace. And now, in the 2020s, we hit the ultimate separation, outsourcing intimacy altogether through AI and VR. As you can see, it's a very clear continuum of pulling human desire further and further away from physical, relational reality.
The text leans heavily on the wisdom of Professor Neil Postman to explain the impact of all this. He said that technological change is not additive, it's ecological. Meaning, when we drop VR and AI into the realm of human intimacy, we aren't just adding a fun new toy to the mix, it's an ecological change. Replacing human connection with a machine changes the entire ecosystem of how we relate to each other, how we build families, and frankly, how we view one another as human beings.
Section 3. Rewiring Human Desire.
So what actually happens to our brains and our psychology when we outsource intimacy like this? Well, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the concept of a parasocial relationship. The book defines this as a one-sided attachment where the human user is emotionally invested, but the AI is completely incapable of true reciprocity. Sure, it can simulate sympathy incredibly well, but it cannot actually care about you. And while these simulated relationships feel super safe for the user, the author points out that they actively encourage emotional regression. They essentially stunt our ability to mature through shared messy human experiences.
Just contrast these two approaches for a second. Real intimacy, it requires friction. It demands patience, sacrifice, mutuality. It exposes our insecurities, which is uncomfortable, but that's what helps us grow. Artificial intimacy, on the other hand, is this perfectly safe, sterile bubble catered entirely to your own selfishness. You don't actually have to become someone worth loving, you just have to log in.
MIT psychologist Sherry Turkle is referenced in the text to really validate this observation. We are increasingly treating connection as a performance or just another metric of consumption. As she brilliantly puts it, we expect more from technology and less from each other. We're just losing our patience for the unpredictable, needy, and beautifully imperfect nature of real human beings.
And if we bring in a neurobiological perspective, the book notes the findings of Dr. Donald Hilton. He shows that immersive virtual reality and artificial intimacy actually stimulate the brain in ways that closely mirror drug addiction. It provides this massive, overwhelming dopamine hit that is entirely divorced from genuine affection. It completely bypasses the foundational requirement of actually building a real, committed relationship.
Section 4. The cost of convenience. While tech companies love to market these tools as a beautiful utopia that's going to cure human loneliness, the book highlights the profound hidden costs of this convenience. Users are actively avoiding relational friction. They're losing out on the basic human formation that comes from learning how to love someone who is different from them. Instead, they retreat into algorithmic compatibility, basically treating love as a consumer product that can be tailored to their exact specifications. Psychologist Dr. Jean Twenge frames it perfectly for us here. The generation utilizing these tools is losing the capacity to sustain relationships, to resolve conflict, or to even tolerate mild discomfort. Think about it. If your digital partner is built purely to orbit your ego, you never have to learn the art of an apology or build the muscle of empathy. Emotional resilience is entirely replaced by emotional avoidance.
And as tech ethicist Tristan Harris explains, we are being shaped by this environment. We're being formed into users and consumers rather than lovers. We fully expect to be catered to rather than challenged. The medium itself is molding us into people who swipe instead of pursue, and who command instead of serve.
Section 5. Reclaiming real intimacy.
Now, the explainer doesn't end in despair. We are pivoting now to the final narrative arc of the chapter. The author reiterates a very timeless truth. It is not good for man to be alone. Emerging technologies might be able to replicate the physical sensations of intimacy, but they absolutely cannot replicate its soul. They offer a synthetic mirror, but they are powerless to cure true, deep human isolation.
And this brings us right to the core thesis of the chapter. We have to recognize the stark difference between the artificial counterfeit, which offers affection without accountability, and covenantal love, which requires closeness with a real cost. True love demands incarnation, it demands sacrifice, and it requires the willingness to be challenged and shaped by another real, living person.
The author offers a really clear roadmap out of this digital sedation. Step 1, we must intentionally reject synthetic affection. Step 2, we have to embrace the friction of real relationships, recognizing that discomfort is exactly where our growth happens. And step 3, we must return to the original design of human connection, actively choosing the wholly difficult work of real intimacy over a frictionless, isolated fantasy.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative question to summarize our time today. Will we settle for code, or will we pursue covenant? Are we going to be sedated by a simulation that flatters us, or sanctified by the struggle of real human love? It's a profound question about the future of our own relationships, and ultimately, what it truly means to be human.
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on Futurism and Emerging Technologies. If you want to dive deeper into how these concepts connect to the broader themes of the book, you can discover more and support the author at the interactive companion site at pervertingourreproductivenature.com.